Sexual motivation enables species survival. Attraction is the first step. In non-human species, hormones activate the mating process. Mating strategies are not particularly variable. Males often compete aggressively for dominance over more than one female. We humans each owe our existence to the attraction between a particular man and a particular woman. Everywhere, people show preferences for certain romantic partners. But what shapes those preferences? Are they universal? Do all people look for the same qualities in a potential mate? Theorists disagree on the role that evolution and culture play in social attraction. Dr. David Buss is a proponent of an evolutionary explanation.
Evolutionary psychology makes a very powerful set of predictions about sex differences in mating strategies, and these stem from fundamental sex differences in human reproductive biology. I'll mention just two. One is the fact that fertilization occurs internally within women and not within men, and this has posed a very important adaptive problem for men, namely the problem of paternity uncertainty. Some cultures use the phrase mama's baby, papa's maybe to describe this asymmetry there. Men are never sure whether they're the fathers, women are always 100% sure. A second major difference in reproductive biology is what is called the minimum obligatory parental investment. If we ask the question, how much investment does a man or a woman need to put in to produce a single child? In the woman's case, it's tremendous. That 9-month period of pregnancy, it's metabolically costly, and this is a tremendous cost that is not borne by men. And so these sex differences in fundamental aspects of human reproductive biology have given rise to psychological sex differences.
Dr. Alice Egley is a proponent of the social structural theory. She looks at mate selection from a different perspective.
We choose partners, our long-term partners, in the constraints of the role system that we have, particularly the marital role system. So one would, as a woman, want a man who would do a good job of however the male, the father, husband role is defined in the society. And a man similarly would want a woman to do a good job of however it's defined in society. So we're looking for good exemplars in terms of the marital role system and the broader gender role system that's apparent in our society.
Buss believes his evolutionary theory finds support in a study of 37 different cultures around the world. He and his colleagues simply asked men and women what they preferred in a mate. They discovered remarkable similarities across these differing cultures.
What we found is there was one particular cluster in all 37 cultures that women valued more than men. It's what I call the resource cluster. Basically, women universally more than men valued partners who had good financial prospects, who were economically stable, and even more important, who had the personality characteristics that lead to resources and resource acquisition over time. These are things like a man's ambition, drive, industriousness, social status, and even older age, somewhat older age. Women typically want partners who are 3 to 4 years older than they are, and we know that statistically a somewhat older age is linked with greater resources and greater social status. We found one very powerful sex difference, something that men wanted more than women. Basically boils down to two characteristics. One is things associated with youth, and the other is things associated with physical appearance or physical attractiveness. These are obviously related. Physical appearance provides a wealth of information about a woman's fertility or reproductive value, that is, her ability to have children in the future. And men who, in our evolutionary past, who selected fertile women, they out-reproduced men who tended to select infertile women. And so men's mate preferences focus heavily on physical appearance cues to fertility. So things like clear skin, youthful appearance, lustrous hair, full lips, symmetrical features, signs of good health, signs of youth. These are things that men value more than women.
If it's built into the species, you should see it pretty much every place. So my colleague Wendy Wood and I we're interested in that, and we looked at the data from the 37 culture study. It appeared to us that there was a fair amount of variability across the 37 cultures in the extent to which you get sex-differentiated mate selection. And our thought was that, well, that should follow some rules, the rules of the social structural theory. That is, when men and women are very differently placed in social roles, they should choose rather differently. So if there's a strong division of labor between homemakers and providers and the women are really confined to the home, then you should get big differences in mate selection. And in other kinds of societies, such as our own, where these differences have moderated to some extent, most women are employed, men and women aren't so differently placed, then the sex differences in mate selection should get smaller because they're due to the placement of men and women in different roles in society.
Egley obtained data from the United Nations on gender equality. These studies compared men and women in various societies according to the division of labor. She found enough variation in the results to suggest that sex differences in mate selection tend to erode in cultures in which there is greater gender equality. The more similar the roles of men and women, the more people tend to choose someone like themselves.
Good morning, Vanilla Industries.
The debate over gender differences in mate preferences raises the larger issue of the relative contributions of biology and culture to human social behavior. Such accounts need not be contradictory. Indeed, biology and culture interact. Biological factors operate within a cultural context, and culture builds on a biological foundation. Proponents of the various theories of attraction and mate selection continue their quest. Their work may ultimately lead to a theory that integrates biological, psychological, and social factors.